At dawn, a sealed red folder arrived at Windsor Castle. By nightfall, 2 royal children had been removed from their mother's control. This wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a rumor. It was an emergency guardianship crisis, one the Crown hadn't activated since the abdication of a king. Behind closed doors, a single sentence was entered into the record, so cold, so final, it stunned the Royal Council into silence. "Let the Crown raise them, I have an empire to rebuild." Within hours, passports were frozen. Trusts were dismantled. And the monarchy moved, not with drama, but with law, lineage, and force. This is the story of how Archie and Lilibet became the center of a royal intervention, and how one decision triggered the quiet end of an era the world thought would never fall. For years, the world saw only the innocent cherubic face of a young prince, smiling, waving, delighting crowds with playful expressions that melted hearts across the globe. But behind the towering palace gates, something far colder lingered. An eerie silence hung in the corridors. Servants whispered in hushed tones. Nannies vanished without explanation, leaving in the dead of night, their goodbyes abrupt and unspoken. And now, just 1 minute ago, that carefully preserved royal illusion was shattered. A palace psychologist has come forward, revealing something so deeply unsettling that it threatens to redefine not only the future of the monarchy, but the way the world understands it. What has been hiding in plain sight all along, and why was it allowed to continue for so long? Before we go any further, before we unravel what this truly means for the royal family, make sure you subscribe, because what follows is a story the palace never wanted told. At first glance, Prince Louis appeared to be the very definition of youthful charm. He waved enthusiastically from balconies, grinned broadly at flashing cameras, and tugged playfully at his mother's dress, delighting onlookers with unscripted innocence. The public adored him. Social media celebrated him. Headlines framed him as the monarchy's most lovable wildcard. But while the world laughed, something darker was quietly taking shape behind palace walls. Courtiers began whispering about sudden, unexplained outbursts. Staff members who worked closely with Louis started resigning, quietly, politely citing vague personal reasons. Yet their eyes told a different story, haunted, uneasy, afraid to speak openly. One former royal nanny who refused to be named later described nights that stretched endlessly into dawn, nights when Louis would cry for hours without pause. No lullaby soothed him, no embrace calmed him. "He wasn't throwing tantrums," she said, her voice trembling even years later. It was like he was lost inside his own mind. At the time, her concerns were dismissed, buried beneath layers of royal protocol, denial, and strategic silence, but she wasn't alone. Insiders began noticing that Louis was mysteriously absent from key royal appearances. Unlike Prince George and Princess Charlotte, whose public schedules were meticulously planned and polished, Louis's participation was unpredictable. Sometimes he arrived late, sometimes not at all. And when he did appear, handlers hovered unusually close, constantly whispering, redirecting, distracting. The question began to grow louder. What were they hiding? Footage from recent public events, particularly the Jubilee, has since become a point of obsession for behavioral experts. They dissected every blink, every flinch, every frozen moment. One detail stood out starkly: Louis's complete emotional withdrawal during loud applause, followed by sudden bursts of laughter that felt disconnected, almost rehearsed. "This is not typical childhood behavior," one expert stated. "It suggests emotional overstimulation, masking, or both." Even more disturbing was what the public didn't see. Segments highlighting Louis's behavior were quietly cut from televised broadcasts. Paparazzi photos, normally relentless in their pursuit of royal children, were mysteriously withheld. Journalists later confirmed they received strong guidance from palace liaisons urging them not to publish anything that might misrepresent the prince's emotional state. It wasn't guidance, it was a gag order wrapped in public relations language. Behind the scenes, the royal family turned to an outside expert, someone discreet, someone trusted, someone who could operate beyond the reach of the press. Enter Dr. K. Renowned for handling high-profile child cases in ultra-private environments, Dr. K was brought in quietly under the guise of an educational consultant. But her true mission was far more serious. For weeks, she shadowed Louis, not just during public engagements, but inside his private world. She observed his patterns, his fears, his interactions with family. According to insiders, what she discovered left her shaken. Not because Louis was broken, but because he was unprotected. The palace hoped her presence would resolve the issue quietly, but Dr. K was not there to preserve illusions. She was there to tell the truth. And the truth was devastating. Every smile, she realized, was rehearsed, every wave carefully coached. From fidgeting hands to vacant stares, the signs had always been there, hiding in plain sight. So why didn't the palace act sooner? Or worse, did they already know? From the moment Prince Louis stepped into public view, his presence was meticulously managed. At Wimbledon, while George and Charlotte clapped politely and followed cues, Louis squirmed, covered his ears, or stared off into space. During the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, he stuck out his tongue, gestured wildly, and even turned his back on the crowd mid-performance. The public laughed it off as harmless mischief, but behind the humor, something was unraveling. Observers now believed these weren't acts of disobedience, but silent cries for help. Unlike his siblings, Louis drifted in and out of the moment. On the palace balcony, George stood composed, Charlotte curtsied with grace. Louis, meanwhile, oscillated between hyperanimation and eerie stillness, disconnected, distant, lost in a world few understood. Palace insiders later admitted there were long-standing concerns about his reactions to loud noises, unpredictable crowds, and sudden flashes of light. While the public saw quirky expressions, aides privately described him as overwhelmed, sometimes freezing entirely during rehearsals. Reports surfaced of meltdowns before events, of conditions placed on his attendance, of comfort routines that had to be followed. These moments were never meant to surface, but they nearly did. On more than one occasion, hot microphones captured unsettling backstage chatter. "Just keep him smiling," one handler was overheard saying. "If he stares again, take him off the stage," another muttered. "We can't keep doing this, it's not fair to him." The feeds were cut, the footage vanished. But the tension only grew. Even members of the palace press team began to feel uneasy. A quiet rebellion formed between those sworn to protect the monarchy's image and those desperate to protect the child behind it. Medical aides pushed for fewer appearances, longer breaks, real accommodations. Their pleas were ignored. "The firm doesn't know how to deal with vulnerability," one aide later admitted, "especially not when it wears a crown." Handlers tried managing Louis in real time, subtle shoulder taps, whispered instructions, guided hand waves. These weren't gentle nudges. They were carefully choreographed performances designed to mask a growing crisis. Still, the palace said nothing. And then protocol shattered. Dr. K went public. Her words weren't just clinical, they were heartbreaking, and they exposed a system built on secrecy, denial, and emotional neglect. For over 2 decades, Dr. K had treated some of the most complex childhood trauma cases among elite families worldwide. She entered the palace not as a critic, but as a lifeline. But what began as routine observation quickly turned grim. Louis didn't speak like a carefree child. He spoke like someone drowning quietly. "Why do I have to smile when I'm scared?" he allegedly asked during one session. He spoke of loud rooms, of cameras, of confusion over what was real and what was performance. "They only see me when I'm happy," he said. These weren't tantrums, they were warning signs. Dr. K urged palace officials to reduce his exposure, to prioritize therapy over appearances. Each warning was deflected, image came first. Then Louis changed. He withdrew, avoided eye contact, whispered, "I want to go somewhere quiet, but there's always a camera." That was the moment Dr. K chose conscience over silence. Her resignation was swift. Her final report leaked, not to tabloids but to a global child mental health network. The findings were explosive. A rare neurological emotional condition, heightened sensory sensitivity, emotional overload triggered by performance pressure, high functioning but under relentless strain. One sentence echoed like a prophecy. Unaddressed, this could evolve into an identity crisis with constitutional implications. This wasn't just about a child. It was about the future of the monarchy. And instead of compassion, the palace chose control. Emails leaked, media blackouts followed. Then came the photos, carefully staged, painfully cheerful. Within hours, Prince Louis was everywhere, smiling, laughing, holding hands in gardens. But none of it was spontaneous. It was crisis choreography. And behind the curtain, a blackout deal was forming, one designed to erase the truth before the world could fully see it. Major publications reportedly began receiving quiet but urgent calls from palace representatives, urging editors to temper their coverage. According to multiple insiders, senior editors were subtly promised early access to future royal exclusives, carefully timed interviews, private photographs, privy. legged briefings in exchange for silence surrounding Louis's condition. It was not framed as censorship, but the message was unmistakable. Within days, the digital landscape shifted dramatically. The internet was no longer filled with concern or analysis. Instead, it was flooded with harmless distraction. Prince Louis's funniest faces, the royal rascal strikes again. Headlines engineered to soften, deflect, and ultimately erase the truth beneath laughter. A calculated flood of charm designed to drown out discomfort. But not everyone inside the machine stayed silent. Former aides began speaking, quietly off the record but with unwavering conviction. One revealed that staff had been instructed to actively manufacture playful moments whenever Louis appeared overwhelmed during public events. Distractions weren't spontaneous, they were rehearsed. Another aide disclosed that press credentials were quietly revoked from any outlet that dared question why Louis had been absent from multiple tours and appearances. What had once been a beloved child had become something else entirely, a tightly controlled symbol, a narrative asset. And yet, beneath the surface of this manipulation, the cracks only widened. Internal documents hinted at a far colder strategy. Louis was being removed from upcoming royal appearances, not to protect his well-being, but to avoid what advisors referred to as optical inconsistencies. Rather than confronting the emotional toll of public exposure, the palace chose concealment, a strategy of absence, a child slowly edited out of the frame. Tensions erupted behind closed doors. Sources confirm growing conflict between Prince William and palace advisors responsible for image management. William reportedly pushed for transparency, insisting that Louis's mental health take precedence over public perception. He argued that shielding his son mattered more than preserving a flawless facade. But he was met with resistance. The monarchy, advisors warned, could not afford the appearance of weakness, especially now, at a moment when stability and continuity were paramount. So much of the institution's future rested on the illusion of unity. And so, a silent war ignited within Kensington Palace. A war between those fighting to protect a child and those desperate to protect a crown. As image makers polished windows and staged smiles for the cameras, one voice prepared to break through the silence, not with a press statement, not with an interview, but with something far more dangerous. A letter, handwritten, private, never meant to be seen. And yet Catherine's words, addressed to a trusted confidant, have now surfaced, revealing a mother at war not only with public expectation, but with the very institution she married into. The letter was never intended for public eyes. It was entrusted to an old friend from Catherine's university years, someone untouched by royal protocol, someone outside the fortress of privilege. But as pressure mounted and the palace's silence hardened into strategic denial, the letter found its way into the press. What it revealed wasn't merely heartbreak. It was rebellion. In her own handwriting, Catherine laid bare a truth the world had long suspected but could never confirm. She had been fighting for her son alone. She wrote of guilt, of sensing that something was wrong but feeling paralyzed by royal expectations. She described moments when Louis clung to her, trembling and overwhelmed, only to be gently but firmly ushered into the spotlight. Her words carried the weight of a mother haunted by the fear that she hadn't done enough. Then the tone shifted from sorrow to fury. She recounted meetings where her concerns were dismissed, where she was told Louis would grow out of it or simply needed more discipline, more structure. She wrote that compassion behind closed doors was viewed as weakness and emotion as an inconvenience. The letter spoke of nights spent crying beside Louis's bed, whispering reassurances she feared she couldn't keep. "I told him it's okay to be scared," she wrote, "but I'm not sure he believed me." Midway through the letter came one of its most devastating confessions. Catherine admitted she had seriously considered leaving royal life altogether, not because of scandal, not because of the press, but because she felt trapped between two impossible identities. She could not be both a princess and a mother in a world that demanded perfection from a child who was simply trying to survive the pressure. She also revealed growing tension with William. Though he supported her privately, she wrote that he was caught in a relentless chokehold between duty and fatherhood. Their arguments weren't about love, but priorities. "He wants to protect Louis," she wrote, "but he's terrified of what it might cost the monarchy." Then came the final line, a sentence that struck like a blade through the palace's polished image. "He's not a symbol, he's my son." It was a declaration, a war. Ning, and a refusal to allow her child to be sacrificed for tradition. The letter could not be contained. Its impact rippled far beyond tabloids, resonating with parents across the world. Public sentiment shifted rapidly. The silence of the palace was no longer seen as dignity, but neglect. What is the cost of monarchy? People began asking, when it demands silence from those in pain. Yet just as Catherine pushed for change, another royal stepped forward with a very different agenda. As Catherine grieved, Camilla calculated. Sources close to the Queen Consort claim she viewed Louis's diagnosis not as a crisis, but as an opportunity, one that could reshape the line of succession and secure influence where it mattered most. When Dr. K's report surfaced, panic spread through the palace, but Camilla, seasoned by decades of scandal and survival, did not flinch. Within hours, she was reportedly holding private conversations with senior royals. Her message was never spoken publicly, but it was unmistakable. If Louis represented instability, then difficult decisions had to be made. Behind closed doors, Camilla allegedly posed questions no one else dared voice aloud. Was Louis fit for public duty? Should the line of succession be reconsidered? In her view, emotional unpredictability posed a risk the monarchy could not afford. She proposed a controversial pivot. Princess Charlotte, frequently praised for her composure and confidence, should be positioned more prominently in the monarchy's future. According to insiders, this was no idle suggestion, it was strategic. A secret meeting was reportedly convened with senior advisors to explore what one source chillingly described as a soft removal of Louis from royal visibility. No announcements, no disgrace, just fewer appearances, diminishing relevance, and a slow, elegant fade marketed as protection. But not everyone complied. When William learned of the meeting, he was furious. A senior household source described the confrontation between William and Camilla as the most volatile in years. He allegedly accused her of exploiting his son's pain for political advantage, of disguising ambition as duty. Staff overheard everything, and they haven't stopped talking. What makes this especially insidious is Camilla's reputation as a master strategist, never overt, always precise. Some insiders believe this was never truly about Charlotte, but about consolidating influence while Charles remains on the throne. By sidelining Louis, unpredictability is reduced, control is strengthened. Her vision is clear, a streamlined monarchy, polished, contained, complication-free. And if that means marginalizing a struggling child, so be it. But this time, her maneuvering may have gone too far. Because Prince Louis's story is no longer confined to palace whispers, it has become a storm, one sweeping through every corner of the monarchy. And as the family fractures, another voice emerges from beyond the grave. Queen Elizabeth. Hidden among her confidential papers was a single handwritten page, sealed, personal, and addressed not to Parliament, not to Charles, but to Louis. The letter was discovered amid chaos as legal teams sorted through her estate. No crest, no seal, just a grandmother's handwriting. Those who read it describe it as chilling, not for what it revealed about the present, but for how precisely it predicted the future. Elizabeth wrote of a changing world, of traditions that no longer fit the souls forced to carry them, and she named Louis, not George, not Charlotte, as the child who might feel that burden most deeply. Some are born to rule, she wrote, others are born to remind the crown of its humanity. She proposed a radical idea, a framework allowing non-heir royals to step back without scandal or shame. The memo was sealed, filed, forgotten, until Catherine read it, and everything changed. Now behind palace doors, quiet conversations are underway, no announcements, just whispers of reform. Because for the first time, the monarchy must face a question it can no longer avoid. What happens when the crown doesn't fit? Prince Louis stands at the center of a storm he never chose. And what comes next may change the monarchy forever.